Brother Chris Womack and Brother Chuck Faush to the stage for modern conversation focusing on the power of mentors and leadership to transform our communities.
Hey, good afternoon, everybody.
Maybe, there it is. Yeah, there we go. Mr. Chairman.
Keep talking while I turn this on, please.
Mr. President. Mr.
Would you keep talking, please?
Chief Executive Officer, I'm trying.
Would you keep talking?
So, is this where we're gonna roll today? I guess so.
Can you follow us?
Well, since he has set the stage, I suppose we can start like this. I've been waiting to get this on my chest for a while. I've been waiting to talk about this. I tell you. So, do you remember, since emerging leaders are in the room, at one point I thought I was an emerging leader. I came to your office downtown, and I was, at the time, president of SGA UAB. And I came and asked you simply for a $500 sponsorship, of which
That was the third time you asked me for $500.
I remember once.
In 2 weeks.
Here's the rest of the story.
You were always very needy.
But you're such a giver.
No.
Hey,
No, seriously. Guys, it is so good to be home. It is so good to be in Birmingham. It is so good to be with a bunch of alpha men. There's nothing like being with family. And so in periods of chaos and uncertainty and difficulty, there's nothing more important than being at home and being with family. And so being here in Birmingham doing this is incredibly special to me. I grew up with a lot of you, and a lot of you helped raise me into the emerging leaders. One of the things you always have to realize, you can't do nothing by yourself. You can't do nothing. I don't care what it is. And it is so important to have support, mentors, mentorships, mentees, friends, family, or whatever you want to call them. But you gotta have a Dr. Richard Arrington in your life. You gotta have an Williams in your life. You gotta have a Brian Williams in your life. I can go around the room with Jay Roberson and Jeff Germany and David Germany. There's so many people I can go around the room and say what impact you had on my life, and not knowing where I was going to end up or where I am today, I had no idea. But your support, your encouragement, your help, your friendship, your conversation in some small way kept lifting me up, kept helping me out as I did what I have done and continue to try to do. And so as you think about emerging leaders, as you celebrate 100 years of Omicron Lambda, and you think about all the things we talk about in the fraternity, as we talk about manly deeds and scholarship and love for all mankind, those virtues are just as important today as they were in 1906. And I would submit to you that they are more important today than they were in 1906. And so I come here and I stop by here with a great degree of honor and pride and emotions to spend this time with you, and honored for Byron in terms of extending the invitation for me to participate on the program. This is important to me. I had to move some things around to make this happen, but I was going to do whatever I had to do to make sure I was here for this. Now, where do you want to go?
I want to talk about, this is your home.
Right.
So everybody knows a little something, but I want to unpack a little bit of your journey. But I'm going to finish my story.
Okay.
Because you eventually sent me back, and subsequently I had to meet with a lady named Bobby Knight, and you increased a sponsorship because you said I couldn't get done what I could do when I
With
brought
the
it.
amount that you asked for.
Exactly.
Because
So-
without knowing you, I saw something in you that said, let me take a chance on you because you had energy, you had passion, you had enthusiasm, you had creativity. And the other thing is, and I talk a lot about it in terms of people, in terms of being successful, and I'll give you this attribute. You ain't never been afraid to work. Okay? And so that's one of the things that I think as attributes for success, particularly for emerging leaders, and anybody. Don't be afraid to work. I mean, don't be afraid to put the hard work in. And don't be afraid, and I say it in the office and the company all the time, don't be afraid to do hard things. And so, I mean, I talk about how great our company is because we demonstrate every day that we can do hard things. And we celebrate the successes we accomplish by doing hard things. And so that was some of the things I saw in you.
And that's the mentoring point that we talked about earlier with the journey, because oftentimes we feel like we pen down and we have this set of dots that we have to connect where we're trying to go. And I know a little bit about your story, that those were intersections and dots that started in Greenville, but you had no idea to be sitting in this chair here today. So talk about that.
And I never aspired to do this. I mean, Birmingham is home because I think a lot of my formative years happened here. But I was born and raised in, I guess about 170 miles from here, down in a place called Greenville, Alabama, in South Alabama. And grew up with my mother and my two brothers, and that's why I learned to work, because we had to get up in the mornings and deal with chickens and pecans and you name it. We had to go out and do hard work every day. And so I've never been hesitant about doing hard work, but I've never aspired to do what I'm doing. My motto always was, do the best job with the job I had. And if I do that, if I demonstrate I understand the business, understand what I'm doing, if I demonstrate my interest in innovation, and I talk about this thing that I call this relentless curiosity about what's around the corner, what's coming next, demonstrating my ability to think about those kind of things, and along with that, getting things done, and getting results. If I do that, and if I work well with you, if I work well with Ivan and Bonnie, there's a good chance I'm gonna get another opportunity. And that has been kind of my recipe for my life in terms of how I have done things. I mean, and I also got to say, faith has been also a big part of my journey, because I think about it today, and Mary Ann just mentioned it, and I talk about it, and I come out of a political environment when I moved to Birmingham, and lo and behold, one day I ended up with 2 job offers, actually 3, and one was to go work for the mayor, and the other one was to go work for the power company, the other was to go work at UAB, and I said, the job I really wanted to do was to go work for the mayor, but something said, go do this power company thing for a couple of years, and then maybe you can then go back to work for the mayor. Okay?
That was a minute ago.
It was about 34 years ago that all that happened. And so I think along our lives and leaning on our faith and listening to our faith helps you kind of sort out the journey and be humble and faithful and patient as the journey unfolds.
Talk to emerging leaders about how every moment counts, how every person you don't discount, how you pay attention to all things, because your journey from Greenville, and you did not mention the fact that you didn't do well at one job, which was trying to teach for a minute.
As faithful as I am, I never got that call. And so she wanted me to be a teacher.
Yeah.
And so after I graduated, I came back to Greenville and I did some student teaching for about a week and realized that ain't for me. And so then that's when I went to Washington, D.C. to work on Capitol Hill a number of years before I came back to Birmingham. But no, teaching was not in the cards for me in terms of an occupation. I do think we all are instructors and leaders and friends and support systems for everyone we come in contact with. And so I think it's always, what are we doing all the time to extend a helping hand, to extend some kind of support for anybody and everybody you run into, but also making sure that we're always trying to be very helpful. I've really bought into, and I listen to a lot of things. There's a lot of different podcasts. I'm trying to read a book every month. And I was listening to Denzel Washington. This is about a year ago, and he was going through a real spiritual conversion himself. And he was talking about, he was at his mother's beauty shop one day. This is as he was in college, and Denzel actually flunked out of college. He didn't do well at all. But he was in his mother's beauty shop, and this lady came to him and said, "Son, you're going to travel the world." And he had no idea what she was talking about. But you think about all the acting roles that he's done, he's literally traveled the world. But the other part of the story was, and from a life perspective, is not just living life, not just aspire to have an easy kind of monetary, financial, kind of all the things, all the trappings we get excited about. But he talks a lot about living a life where he's trying to make a difference, where he's trying to help somebody, where he's trying to extend a helping hand to somebody. And that's something that I think about in terms of an obligation and responsibility that we have. And so I was reading, and I was very disappointed to read. I was reading the Wall Street Journal this past weekend, and that was a story about Birmingham. And Birmingham last year broke its murder record with 151 murders in Birmingham last year. The highest number of murders Birmingham has since 1933. And so you say, whose problem is that? Who's got to solve that? Is it their Woodford's problem? Is it the state's problem? Whose problem is that? And I think we all have to figure out what role, what part do we play in helping find solutions to those kinds of issues in our community. And so, as I lead our company, I think I have a responsibility to make sure I'm making a difference. One of the things that I've gotten involved in Atlanta is homelessness. Because I don't want the homeless issue in Atlanta to turn out what it's turned out to be in San Francisco and Los Angeles and other places. And so working with Mayor Dickens, we are working to say we can eliminate homelessness in Atlanta. From providing additional shelter, for providing all the therapy that the veterans need, but the medical support for individuals who find themselves in that condition, but looking at a comprehensive kind of way to make sure that we're trying to solve that problem. And I think that's something that we all have to do in terms of finding our own path, finding our own way to help to try to make a difference.
So when you speak to emerging leaders in this room, and to some of us who are still trying to do good, be good, and the roles that we play, I want you to step back for a minute and talk about each role in your company journey and the significance it played at that time in your life with your community work and with your presence within the company. Because sometimes we had this earlier with emerging leaders, is how do you delineate or make sure you're balancing between who you are and what you do?
I don't do good at balancing much of anything. I try to do it all. So I've gone through this company in 14, 15 different jobs. From policy roles, government affairs roles, to corporate services, to communications, to human resources, to running generation and power plants, to to Georgia and Alabama and Southern companies. So I've had a bunch of different jobs. And those jobs, and I didn't think about it at that time as I was moving through those opportunities. But yeah, it gave me a big, large perspective of the company. So when I was given the opportunity to step into this role, I know it. I know the company. I know the issues. I mean, I see what this industry is facing in terms of this incredible demand for power that we have in this country, and what that means for our company in terms of not just growing every year 1.5%, but we got the opportunity now to grow 11, 12, 13% as far as the eye can see in terms of growing this business, growing this company, building plants, generation, making sure we're responding to, as all of you use your AI tools and AI assist and chat GPT and all the artificial intelligence activities that you're doing and the data that requires, all of that requires more power. And guess what? We're going to make sure there's power. And I tell people all the time, there will be power. Okay? And so all of the roles that I've had have prepared me, have given me a different perspective on this business. But at the same time, as I would do different things, my interest, my motivation in terms of what needed to be done in the community never waned. And the other thing that never got away from me was that whether it's you, whether it's Bobby, whether it's I, we were always together. No matter what role we were in, no matter where we moved, if you moved to Mobile, you moved wherever you moved, whatever, you moved to Chicago, we were always connected, collaborating around something to help somebody or to help something get done, to help make a difference. And it's because, going back to what I said earlier, I can't do anything by myself. It takes a village, it takes a family, it takes a bunch of us to collectively do things to make a difference. And being blessed with having this incredible network, these people that are friends but more like family, it's just been an incredible opportunity to do what we've done and the opportunity that have been made available to us.
Oh, let the church say amen.
Yeah.
You will not make me cry.
No, I won't.
I want you to speak to your younger self. He's in this room. I want you to talk to your younger self right now. Out of all the things that you've accomplished, all the things that you've done, all the people that you touched and made better along the way, I want you to now speak to your younger self.
I talk to myself and I give incredible thanks and praise for my grandmother. And growing up in South Alabama in the 60s, growing up in the countries in the 60s, and all the challenges that we as African Americans faced in that period. My grandmother always told me that you can be whatever you want to be and that you're just as good as anybody, but you're better than most. And so she never allowed me or my brothers to be limited by anything. Not to be limited or restrictions because of my race or because of where I grew up. Because like I said, I mean, growing up in Greenville, Alabama, I didn't know what CEOs did. I didn't know CEOs existed. Okay? Like I said, I mean, I saw preachers and teachers. That's what I saw. And I was telling a group of kids, they came by the office, there's a mentorship program that we do in Atlanta, and they have the opportunity to come work in the office 2 days a week. I did that for one simple reason. I was driving from Greenville to Chicago, probably maybe back in the late 60s, early 70s, I can't remember when, but we were driving up Highway 65 coming through Birmingham. And I saw a big, tall building because in Greenville everything was 1 story, maybe 1.5 story, and I didn't see tall buildings. And I wondered what was happening in that building, and if you look from the outside, it is incredibly intimidating because you don't know what's going on in there. And so I did this program because I wanted to remove that mystique, to remove that intimidation and say, I can do this, I can belong, I can fit in in this building. I can work in this building. And so those are the kind of things I think about when I do a lot of things in life, is remember where I came from and what I experienced and things that I did, and not knowing necessarily what was next, but always being faithful and hopeful and optimistic that I am not limited. I have no limitations. With the grace of God, I can be whatever I want to be. I got to put the work in. I got to do the work. I got to treat you right. I got to treat everybody right. No matter what happens, I got to be fair to everybody. And so with that kind of belief and faith and hope and optimism, sky's the limit.
You're sitting at tables and in rooms some of us will never be in, and you have to have some hard conversations. What are the hard conversations right now for our future to give us some hope, some confidence that our future is still bright?
Yeah, I mean, I have to make incredible decisions about how when I say there will be power, how do I make sure there will be power and the $1 billion investments. And so no matter what we're in the throes of, I mean, as we think about data centers, as I think about data center campuses and where they should go and what communities they should go in, where they can go to uplift the community, provide economic opportunity in the community that otherwise wouldn't have it. How do we work with these hyperscalers, with these tech companies, with the Metas and the Googles and the X's and the Teslas and all these big companies? How do I make sure that, yeah, they're doing what they got to do in terms of technology, the NVIDIAs, and you see their valuations, but what are they doing to support HBCUs? What are they doing to support quote unquote disadvantaged communities to lift them up? So as we sit at the table doing the business that we must do, how do we also make sure that we're doing other work while we're there?
So to all of the servants of all, speak to your brothers right now and tell us what we should be doing with you.
I mean, I think as Patrick laid out with the project that you have coming to downtown Birmingham, I think those are the things that we have to do. I mean, I strongly believe that the things that the 7 Jewels focused on at Cornell and Ithaca in 1906 when they started this incredible noble experience, that the purpose of it at that time was to create this bond and opportunity for African American men to come together to have fellowship and all the things we refer to. Those noble objectives, as I said earlier, are just as important today as they were in 1906. And for us to use this bond that we have to find endeavors and things we can do collectively, I think it's just as important now as it was then. But we have a built-in network of people that we can marshal, that we can bring together around a cause that is so critically important. We have the opportunity to make a very, very, very big difference. And so the opportunity for us is to do things that bring us together. We talk about reclamation because you talk about all the brothers that are not involved. What is it we do to reclaim them? What do we do to say, come back, join the fraternity, be involved in fraternity, help us do this, help us do that? How do we make sure that meetings don't run too long and not repetitious? And there's one brother who kind of hijacks the meeting and takes it as his own personal agenda. How we make sure that doesn't happen, and y'all know that happens. Okay? There are reasons why we don't want to go to fraternity meetings. We got to rid ourselves of those. Okay? We got to rid ourselves of those. We got to make it it's a fraternity, but it's got to be an organized, orderly, properly decorum, where men come together to do what we do, but let's be orderly, organized, somewhat businesslike, so So we're not there all night, but for those who want to be there all night, you can. Catch myself. No, but I just think there is work, there are things we can do collectively together, and when you have these organizations that already have the infrastructure, already have the membership, already have what we do, how do we remobilize, how do we stimulate this opportunity we have to tackle great challenges that we face in our communities and in our country.
So the question has been answered. Can anything good come out of Greenville, Alabama? Can anything good come out of Birmingham, Alabama? Can anything good come out of the state of Alabama? And there's a book you and I read every day, and there's a line in there that says, or asks the question, if a prophet is welcome in his own land. I want you to know, this group, this brother, we love you, we support you, we want to encourage you, we're going to lift you up, and you, sir, are always welcome in your land. So, brothers, would you help me salute
Thank you very much.
our very own Chris Womack.
Thank you. Good to meet you. Kevin? Evan, good to meet you. Good to meet you, man. Good to meet you guys. Come here. Zos. You guys on the golf team, right?
Sir,
Yeah. What's your favorite club?
Yes, it is. Nice to meet you.
Driver? 7 iron? 8 iron? I hear nobody's talking about the putter.
Second favorite.
Second favorite.
Close second.
I mean, what wins matches?
Excuse me. All former presidents, all from London, please come down with your gathers so we can get one picture of all of us. All past presidents, come down front with your gathers, please.
Mr. Mouse, Chris, good to meet you. Congratulations.
I hear good things about you.
Yeah. He's not too bad.
You bounce? Hello, sir. How you doing, brother?
Good, sir.
Good, Miles?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Golf team?
Yes, sir.
One of y'all gonna teach me how to play,
We
man.
got you, sir. We got you.
One of y'all. What's up, Bob? How you doing, man? I'm good. Nice, bro. All right. What time? That's what's up.
Yes, sir.
We know where to find each other,
Yeah,
right?
I know to find you. Yes, sir. I do.
What's up, brother? What's your name? Really? Okay. We need to connect. You know where to find me, right? What's up, brother? Where are you? What are you? Senior? You're a senior? Junior? Okay. What do you want to do?
We're not looking towards politics.